Hello and welcome to Who's Who in Rare Books and Special Collections, and I am Catherine Chandler. I am absolutely delighted and thrilled to welcome Colleen Barrett. She is the Rare Books librarian at the University of Kentucky in the Special Collections Research Center in the Margaret I. King Library in Lexington, Kentucky. And I'm very excited to talk to Colleen today because I think she's a very smart and very supportive person in this whole field. And thank you so much for joining me, Colleen.
Oh, you're welcome. It's really good to be here.
So first, I wanted to ask you about how you got into special collections and what was your journey. I understand you first worked as an editor and then ventured onto library school at Indiana University. Can you tell us about that experience? I mean, your undergraduate experience, what led you to your library degree, and what were your experiences at IU? And did you intend to specialize in rare books and special collections?
Sure. So I think most of my journey towards special collections begins with the fact that I'm ornery. And going through high school, people would ask me what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I would always tell them happy. So I didn't really enter my undergraduate years with a very clear path of what I wanted or not. I was pretty sure that I wanted an English degree. So my parents were like very supportive of that, and then also always encouraged me to realize that I was probably going to have to get a graduate degree. Like I wasn't just going to be done with done school after an undergrad. So I ended up going to Purdue because they have a really nice honors program, and I wanted something big enough that I could work with English specialists in different genres instead of 2 or 3 professors. And so that gave me like a bigger pool of scholars to like draw from. But I didn't know I was going to be a librarian until probably my junior year, when I took 4 English classes and 1 Spanish class in 1 semester.
Okay.
And that was a turning point because I realized that I could not keep up with all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But one of those classes was a history of the book class with Michael Johnston. Mm-hmm. So in that class, we would read, it was mostly like a medieval manuscripts history class. So we talked about how they were like made. Yeah. And then most of the print stuff we talked about was Shakespeare. So what is type? How does type work?
Right.
And Purdue has, they've got a really nice archival program, and they have some teaching examples of medieval manuscripts. But as part of that class, we took a Saturday bus trip to the Lilly Library at Indiana University, where we looked at a bunch of their collections and did kind of like an in-person project and worksheet. So now I know that we had an active learning exercise, but like then it was like, here's some books, look at the books.
Right, of course.
Yeah. But while I was there and I was high-fiving people over the first folio, I noticed that there was someone in the corner, and that was when I was like, wait, I could get paid to do stuff like this with other people?
Oh my gosh, yes. What an amazing realization.
Yeah, especially since I'm like 90% sure that was Erica Dowell.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh, I met Erica Dowell when I was an undergrad.
Oh, that's wonderful. She's so fantastic. Yeah.
Love her. But so that moment happened, and then I was like, well, how do you get, like, what does that mean? And like, how do you go from there? Purdue's a really strong science and engineering institution. And so there wasn't, I don't know if I didn't find the support for like career guidance or if it wasn't there. Mm-hmm. But I ended up talking to some of the librarians there, and they said, well, you go to library school. And so then I started looking at programs that had special collections.
Oh my God.
And I ended up getting down to like between Illinois and IU, and picked IU because it was cheaper and had Illinois. You couldn't find out if you had an assistantship until after you had agreed to go there.
Right.
I didn't know I could commit to that or not. So
I think that was a problem for several people I tried to encourage to go to Illinois, and that was tough. And plus any of those would have been out of state for them. And Indiana's really hard for out of state, but like you were in state of Indiana. I
Yeah,
mean,
I know. I was like born in the right place.
no brainer. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and I actually, Kristen Lehman, who is well, I think it's Kristen Lehman Morris now.
Mhm.
She's the bicentennial archivist at IU.
Oh, wow.
But I met her because one of my professors was teaching a Tolkien class, and I mentioned to him that I wanted to do things in rare books. And he said, well, you just walk into Purdue Special Collections and ask for Kristen. I was like, what? So eventually she found me, but she was in library school at the time and actually like picked me up at my apartment and then drove me down to IU for the day and gave me like a really specialized tour.
Oh, wow.
The end of it.
That's so amazing.
Yeah.
What a wonderful intro to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I did have kind of a hard time finding examples of library work when I was in undergraduate. So through kind of like nice connections, I ended up working as a technical writer, professional writer for it was the Military Extension Internship Program, which was a cooperative extension program funded through Purdue. Mm-hmm. And so they had me doing kind of like user experience work, and I ran their social media accounts.
Right. That's cool though. That's good experience.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was like a really good intro to like website design and how to create virtual and digital expectations for people.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that can apply to so many different aspects of your career, a lot of different careers.
So. Yeah, it was like a really good example of seeing how like my English degree could work in a more technical aspect, which helped when I got to library school.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. That's great. Okay. Okay, so obviously you knew that you wanted to go into rare books and special collections. So all right. And so can you talk a little bit about so when you went to you wound up going to library school at Indiana, and did you have an assistantship or an internship or something in the Lilly? What was your experience when you were there?
Well, so when I was there, I was fortunate that there were being courses offered all the time in different specializations. So I took almost all of the rare book courses that were offered that I could, and sat in with ones that I couldn't afford the tuition to, and like read widely. But I ended up working, I think, 4 positions when I was there. So I sort of like got to the Lilly.
Yeah.
Like I don't even think I really like went to IU for library school. I went to the Lilly for library school.
Right, that's great.
Yeah, so I started on the research room desk and then transitioned to doing some like technical services work. I got to work as part of the reference department my second year, and I did a cataloging internship with kind of like retcon stuff.
Oh, yeah. What were you guys doing a retro conversion on?
The card catalog. So when I was there, they were still taking things from the card catalog and making sure they were in the like online catalog.
Right.
So I did,
what was it, a particular collection, I mean, or?
It was English drama. So it was, I think, like 17th or 18th century.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I would like have the card catalog, and then I would like go to the shelf and like take the books down.
Yeah.
And put them back. Yeah.
That's fantastic. That's a great experience.
It was really nice. There was Corey Newbolls was the ALF cataloger at the time, and she would take my catalog records home and write on them in pencil. And then we'd have like little meetings and talk about like what had happened or not. And after a certain point, she realized I really liked stickers, so I would like come back on Mondays sometimes, and there'd be like a catalog record with this like rainbow sticker or something.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome! I love it.
Yeah, it's like so funny to think about the small things that have happened along the way, where it's like people really worked very hard to make it possible for me to learn to be where I am now.
Yeah,
gave freely of a lot of their time.
Yeah, such positive experiences. That's wonderful. Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. So you had all of these, these 4 different jobs basically at the Lilies. So then, so thank you so much for sharing that with us. And can you talk to us a little bit about your first job out of library school at Transylvania University, where you worked as a rare books cataloger?
Yeah, so I graduated, as people tend to do. And, once again, being stubborn and still in the pursuit of happiness, I decided that I wasn't going to apply to jobs that weren't special collections positions. So it took 84, 85 apps.
Right.
And a lot of interviews. But I accepted a job at Transy, as they like to call it here, which is also in Lexington. So that was my first exposure to Lexington, Kentucky as a place to live.
Right.
But they had a collection that was donated in, I think, 1984, and it was the Clara Peck collection.
Okay.
And Clara Peck was a New York book collector who also had a horse farm in Lexington.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so Clara, her main bookseller that she worked with when she was buying was John Fleming.
Okay.
So if you go to the Rosenbach biography, she is mentioned on like 2 pages.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
That
she bought
remember that name.
their copy of the Book of St. Albans, which is at Transy. And sorry, I'm still like impressed that anybody hired me right out of grad school to work with this. So
yeah, no, that's wonderful. That's amazing. Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, her like natural history stuff ended up at Transy. Her medieval manuscripts went to the Morgan, and then her collection of glass paperweights went to the Corning Museum of Glass. And they actually had an endowment for buying more paperweights from her.
Wow.
She probably also heard from the Morgan.
Yeah, that's probably also why I know her. I mean, I know that name. Yes. It's just sort of, resonating around my head here, but wasn't locking into any specific place. But now you're making it connect. Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome.
What an amazing opportunity and experience that had to have been. So did you, I mean, was that like a grant funded position? I mean, did you just do the whole thing, or was it a permanent job? I mean, did you finish the collection, or how did that work? So
they got a gift from a group of people who also own horse farms. One of which fell in love with the set of like Clara's Audubons that are there. So one of like Lexington's horse farm owners would come visit the Audubons, and the special collections librarian BJ would say, "Oh, it's such a shame they're not cataloged. They're so lovely." And so through a couple years of that relationship, they gathered enough money to be able to hire someone temporarily. So my position was officially a year, and I did manage to get through her entire collection. But there are really nice other collections at Transylvania that haven't been processed, that I hope at some point they can hire someone to work on.
As is so frequently the case. I mean, it's so heartbreaking. Absolutely. So
and then the other Transylvania thing that's kind of interesting is that it is, as far as I know, one of 2 places that has had an armed robbery of rare books.
Oh, that's right. Wasn't that crazy? I'm remembering that now. It was like in 2008, 2007, something like that, where there were those kids who had the very strange way. I mean, they had the really funny names for the books. I'm remembering this now.
Yeah, and they all had code names, and then they tried to rob the library, but they didn't know that like the elevator wouldn't work back.
That's right. Yeah. Oh my God, that was so. And I think they made a movie out of it, and I didn't see the movie. What was it?
Remember it was called American Animals.
That's right. I need to see that movie now.
I think it is possibly worth watching once. I don't ever want to watch it again.
Twice. Right, I get it.
But I do think it did a pretty fair job of depicting how stupid the whole process was.
Yeah, no, it was so comical, because that was when I remember this vaguely because this was, it was quite a while ago, but it was when I had just transitioned, or it's just maybe a year or so after I transitioned into full-time rare books librarianship from being a music librarian. And I mean, it was just so comical, and you just couldn't believe that this was like not the Onion. But
It should be the Onion. Like it didn't like who.
yeah. Yeah, but Ex Libris was having a big laugh out of it at the time. So
Yeah, it's yeah. So I guess my cocktail party fact that I can throw out any
yes.
cocktail party is that, you know, all of the books that they tried to steal or like borrow temporarily, I cataloged them.
Right.
So
Exactly. I mean,
yeah.
that's very, it's so important. I mean, that's such an important part of security procedures in any collection. So
Yeah. You know, not only is your collection only as good as the people working in it, but if you don't have it cataloged, you can't find it, and then you don't really own it. So even if it's
yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's it's very good for you to, you know,
Never hurts to bring
be
up.
reminding us of this, because it is so true. And it's always important to bring up how important cataloging is, how important catalogers are. Yes, thank you. So, right. Well, then of course, then after your position at Transylvania University, or is it Transylvania University or Transylvania State
It's
University?
Transylvania University.
Okay. I always get these things confused with all of these various institutions. So after that, you transitioned into the trade, and would you want to talk to us about what your decisions were regarding that, you know, that choice, or if it was or wasn't a choice, I don't know. I mean, then you started working with Philadelphia Rare Books and Manuscripts, and you moved to the Philadelphia area.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear about it.
So, well, we kind of covered that my position was a year-long position in
Right.
Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
And so before I had accepted that position, I had done some contract work for Cynthia and David of PRB&M.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so when I was at IU, I took descriptive bibliography, and I really like collating things.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if that's like a nerdy thing you admit or not.
No, it's very fun.
Like, but like there's something really satisfying about being like, I can describe a book. Here you go.
Yeah.
So they had recently purchased a large collection of Bibles, and they needed someone to go through and check if they were complete or not. So they flew me out to Philly and had me do that. And then in the middle of my time working for Transy, I flew out and did another week there with them. At which point, I remember they have this really big wooden table in like part of their shop that's got gorgeous bookshelves around it. And so when they had me out to like work on things for contracts, they would have me sleep in the shop. So like they would leave at the end of the day, and then I could just kind of like wander around looking at things for
what
however I wanted.
That place is so amazing. It really is.
And I do promise there is a point for me like explaining all of this.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember Cynthia being like, "Let us have an afternoon glass of wine." And we
Oh,
kind of like sat down.
That. Yeah, so lovely. Yeah.
And we're like at this table, and she's like, "Oh, what are you looking for in a job?"
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that she just meant in general. So I kind of rattled off a lot of very honest things. And she was like, okay. And one of the things that I really wanted was that my now husband could come with me to wherever I was going next.
Right.
So he had a really good thing going in Purdue, where we met at the vet toxicology lab. And like he had a job that was giving him really good experience, and it didn't make sense to leave that for a job that was only going to be a year. So I knew wherever I went after Transy, I wanted it to be as long as I wanted it to be position. And I'm still at the, not now as much, but at that point I was still definitely in like the age bracket where it was like, if you want to do rare books, you're going to do contract work for as long as we feel like it. Until like you find something else. And so I really wanted something that was going to be permanent, and I wanted something that I knew I would get along with people.
That's
and
a lovely group of people always.
they offered that. So
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
my heart. Yeah,
which led to moving to Philly, which is is my favorite big city.
yeah.
And it was great because while I was there, I got to process things no one else had worked with yet,
Yeah,
and send things to other people. So I met a whole bunch of people in the library world that I wouldn't have met otherwise.
right.
Got
Yeah.
to do a lot of research I wouldn't have been able to do if I was doing library cataloging.
Hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's an amazing experience and lovely people, and they have so much amazing stuff. I mean, it's just they have a great inventory. So
And they kind of figured out that I would not say no. So just like feed me stuff. They're like, I don't want to deal with this. Here you go. And so like it gave me a really good perspective and approach to like no matter what it is, I can look at the book and I will eventually find something about the book that is useful.
yeah.
Because like I don't read Greek. Did I catalog Greek things? Yes.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's
Here
fantastic.
you go.
Right. Okay. So that's great. Thank you so much for telling us that. So well then finally you moved into your present position. So I understand that the collections at the University of Kentucky are absolutely amazing, and they tend to be overlooked. I feel like a lot of people don't know how great those collections are. So maybe you can tell us something about your work there, so maybe some projects you've been working on, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about how your work has been impacted by COVID and what that has all looked like for you.
Yeah, sure. So my current position was classified as the curator of rare books. And the person who was there before me was there from, I think, 1978 until 2013.
Oh my goodness.
When he retired. So,
Okay.
and our collection in general kind of follows the trajectory of a lot of like larger American institutions, and that we got our first big donation in 1943 and then added a couple big larger size collections over time. We're quite fortunate that we have several endowments that have been established for specific things.
Right.
And so I have, I think, 8 endowments that are kind of all classified in different ways that I can use to purchase materials.
Oh, wow. That's great.
But we are a grab bag of what you would like.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're really strong in American literature. We're also strong in some British literature. We have an endowment for early Mexican imprints. So we have like probably around 200 or so like Mexican imprints from like the 16th and 17th century.
Oh, that's amazing.
We have the Courtauld collection, which is a bunch of different like music publications across time because of now I'm not going to remember Alfred Corto's instrument. It might have been cello. You might know this.
Wait, how do you spell that?
Cortot, I think. Courtauld.
Oh no, he was a pianist.
Okay, yeah. So like he apparently
He's a phenomenal pianist, but everybody thought he was a Nazi. So he's been sort of like dismissed, and people don't want to admit that they really love him, but he's amazing.
Oh, well, we have a bunch of his books because
yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing to know. Yeah.
There was I think one of the curators in the 70s was like, well, of course we'll buy this. So we got like what I think of as like all the leftovers. So, like if it didn't go to the British Museum and it didn't go to the Newberry, like it came to us. And so
wow.
We have a couple incunables from there. Just
yeah.
Oh my God. We have 17 medieval manuscripts.
Oh, that's like good.
Yeah, it's like if you want something, you have something. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So what is the range on them? What is, do you know how?
Currently in the process of reclassifying them and researching them. We've got a Latin German glossary. We have a bunch of books of ours. We have 2 graduals, I think.
Okay.
This is probably a good point for me to be like, I'm more of an Americanist.
Oh, sure. That's a very good thing to be.
Yeah, that's like,
Especially with the collection that you just described. So
yeah. I was kind of drawn into, so the foundational collection was the Samuel Wilson collection. He was a judge in Lexington. He collected Kentucky imprints.
oh,
So my super jam is early Kentucky imprints and
oh my
like Midwestern printing, because the idea of people bringing printing presses from the East Coast out and being able to work with them. So
yeah.
Lexington, Kentucky had printing before the rest of the Midwest. So like some of our printers in Kentucky went up and started printing in Ohio. And I think we were the second newspaper west of the Alleghenies, because there was a newspaper in Pittsburgh, and then a lot of either our paper or part of our type came from Pittsburgh down to Lexington, and that's where the Kentucky Gazette got its like materials to do.
Yeah, I did not know that.
Yeah, so
very cool.
For a while, Lexington was considered the Athens of the West because Transylvania was out here and it got founded. It's like the 15th oldest institution in the country.
Oh my gosh, I did not know that either.
So we had like a really big scientific community that was doing a lot of communication between like here and Philadelphia. So it's kind of funny to like come back here from being in Philly, because then I'll like see references to Philadelphia on historic markers when I'm walking around town. And
oh my gosh, what a neat place.
Yeah, so it's kind of like if you dream it, it might be in the collection, or it's definitely not going to be in the collection.
Right. You just
like,
but it's that extensive, in other words.
Yeah.
So, or that deep, or yeah.
And I'm part of the Research Services and Education Department, so that means that I kind of view myself as being like the cheerleader for the collection. So like everything I'm doing is just like trying to encourage people to find more of it.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure to come and use it, or
we have really flexible digitization requirements. Like we don't charge for digital copies of things, and I think we let you ask for up to like 200 pages a month.
Oh wow, that's so generous compared to some institutions.
Sending pictures is their jam. I think we realize not everybody can come to UK in person.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. That's really good for people to know. Yeah, absolutely. So what has been going on during COVID? I mean, for you guys, and what's going on in the fall? What is your situation?
Okay. Well,
do you have fall plans?
I do. The library is going to be open from Tuesday to Thursday by appointment for people coming in to use the research room. We have a like weekly schedule kind of set up so that I could go in on Wednesdays and Fridays, and people going in on certain days won't mix with like the other group. So we have like pods basically.
Oh, I see.
And it's like really spread out, so we're not going to have too many people anywhere at a time. But I'm going to use most of this time for like stacks projects. So before this all happened, I was working through a rare book inventory because our rare book collection hasn't been inventoried in a really long time.
Oh, wow.
And we're currently rehousing them. So before, like they're on normal shelves, but we have slatted shelves instead of like solid wire shelving, because the building we're in was the original library on campus. And so like we have like the original stack still.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
So what we're doing is we're taking the books and putting them in trays so that like books that are the same size will be next to each other, not have like big books crushing small books and that kind of thing.
Right, or losing miniature books,
we're losing miniature books, or
like the sort of not quite miniature books, but
like almost miniature books.
Called tinies.
Yeah. So like to not crush the tinies. I've been working on that. I've been trying to get to know the faculty better, because I'm not a liaison for a certain department. It can be kind of challenging.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's good. That's excellent. Yeah. So, yeah, this sounds like you've been amazingly productive, during this time.
Yeah, it's been I do not think you would be surprised if I said it was emotionally challenging to be kind of away from the material that draws you into profession for a really long time.
I totally get that. Yeah.
I did, thankfully, I had gotten funding to get some conservation work done on our first edition Phyllis Wheatley.
Oh, wow.
Before we shut down, and so we still got to do that, which is really nice.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah. Well, and a lot of people, of course, and it seems as though a lot of people have, it seems like a lot of people have been returning to their places of work who are in rare books and special collections in like, it seems like just even the past couple of weeks. And some of the things that they're sharing on social media, I mean, they really do feel very emotional, just like, oh my gosh, you know, here I am again. Like, I'm so happy to see my office, or I'm so happy to see my collections again. And, you know, I mean, it really, it's kind of a widely shared feeling, I think. So
Yeah.
I think it's quite understandable. So, so I mean, but you're not actually physically spending time back now, like even a few days yet, or?
It starts next week. I think I'm going to be there on Wednesday and Friday afternoons to work on
Oh,
stuff,
okay.
which will be good.
Kind of like staggered, like just a few days here and there.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to do a couple hours, a couple days, because there's obviously stuff I could do, but I can also do stuff at home. I don't think a lot of people realize just how much of librarianship is like email or planning things or like prepping things.
Yeah.
It's like you don't just go grab the book. You have to like put in the ANT request.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. So, well, and is there sort of like a, I mean, as far as students coming back on campus, what is the University of Kentucky doing about that? Is everybody just coming back to campus, or is there sort of like a staggered class thing like some schools are doing, or?
I think, so we're starting, I think it's like 1 or 2 weeks early.
Mm-hmm.
People are coming back. Everybody has to get tested when they come back before they can like actually be on campus.
Right.
And then we are not going to have any in-person stuff after Thanksgiving. Special collections, we're not doing in-person classes this semester.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing like all virtual stuff if people want visits or approaches for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we are kind of still figuring out what that means and what that looks like.
Right.
Yeah.
That's understandable.
So I have one English class scheduled for a visit, and I'm not sure what else is going to happen.
Yeah, you'll just kind of take it as it comes, I guess.
See how it goes.
Yeah, well, that sounds like a pretty good setup, actually.
Yeah,
for your department.
Yeah, I'm really grateful to be where I am. It's nice to have a department that really supports the idea of not going back in the building if you're not comfortable.
Absolutely, yeah. So, well, this sounds really good. I'm very happy for you. I'm excited to hear all about these collections, and you know, it makes me want to come visit, even though I can't right now. So
yeah,
I'm
not right now, but eventually we have ice cream and donuts and the Bourbon Trail.
Oh yeah, no, I totally want to do that, and I do love bourbon. So,
yeah. I mean, it's one of our things. We got bourbon, horses, and basketball.
Oh, basketball. See, no, I didn't even realize. I'm learning so much just about the collections, about the history of, I mean, just in the short conversation about the history of printing in the area. And yeah, so this is pretty great. Yeah.
There are things, yeah.
So is there anything else that you want to share with everybody before we end our interview here, or?
I feel like I'm going to let something pass, but I'm not actually sure.
Well, that's okay. I mean, you know, we can, we can comment on the video, or we can, share it in social media when we share the video, or yeah, there's always more that will come later. So anyway, well, thank you so much for sharing all this. It's been wonderful to talk to you, and it's so interesting to hear about, I mean, basically your journey, because that's what we want to hear. That's what we're here for. And I love hearing your story. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me. It's been a really good thing to do on a Friday afternoon.
Okay. All right. Well, then we'll say goodbye for now, and thank you for another edition of Who's Who in Rare Books and Special Collections.